Hello, my peaceful and profitable five-figure entrepreneurs. Happy Wednesday. I am so glad to be here for today. We are talking about why your high-ticket offer isn't selling and what to do about it. So this is going to be really supportive to you because I talk to people about this all the time. My clients, potential clients, just business owners who are frustrated as just anything because their offer isn't selling. And so we are going to cover some basic, simple things to look at first, and then we're going to dive into some strategies that I have. We'll also share some client examples to really support you in this conversation. So we will jump right in just a minute. If you are new, welcome to my world. I'm Jordan Ilderton. I have been in business for 8 years. So in the online space, I'm basically a grandma. I support business owners to make more money. Mainly, I work with done-for-you service providers or other people who want to pivot to a higher ticket. As someone who started 8 years ago charging $35 an hour as a bookkeeper, and now I have 20K cash months, I am the best person to support you with this. I have supported countless clients to do this. 7 of my clients have made multi-six figures from our work together, and I just love the work that I do, and I love coming here to the group and sharing all of this. So that is who I am. That is what I do. Couple housekeeping things. If you join live today or catch the replay, please say hello, ask your questions. I love your energy. This is training that is for you and really to be supportive for you. So, just let me know anything coming up for you. And then if you want like specific examples or anything, just drop them here. That's what it's for. And I'll always pick a winner. If you join live, I want to do a special giveaway. I've got a really great masterclass about writing sales promos, because I know that's something that most people struggle with. I talk to people and I'll ask them like, how many times a week are you selling? And they're like, I don't know. Like, okay, tell me about your promo posts. And they're just like, oh, blank stare. So I have a whole masterclass around that, and it gives you an exact framework, formulas that you can use to write sales promos to really like sell the shit out of what you're promoting, because that makes a huge difference. So that'll be what we're giving away today. The other thing is I'm opening 2 intensives in March. So these are my creating 10K monthly reoccurring revenue intensives. So these are a week long of just like support the shit out of you intensives. We use this time together to either repackage your done-for-you service skills into a higher ticket, or if you already have that higher ticket, we can kind of look at the client journey and create that together. We can use it for messaging, because it doesn't matter how great your offer is. If your messaging is not clear, if it's not selling you, why you, if it's not making you stand out from everyone else that offers something similar, your offer is just gonna flop. And so we can use the intensive time for that as well. I've had people walk away from these intensives and book clients, and it's just like speeds up them getting clients in cash. And that's just such a joy for me, because I've seen it, make such a difference in people's businesses. So that is what I've got going on and opening up for March. So send me a message. I'll drop the link below to kind of give all the details for that. But those are the creating 10K MRR intensives. So we'll go ahead and jump in. Let me get this going. I've got like some friends texting me right now. So if you see me like doing stuff with the screen, that is why. I started the text message, but it's basically like, I want to buy one of those like Taylor Swift flags, Taylor Swift for president flags. So we were just like laughing how fun that would be. They're pink. My daughters would love it. I have 3 daughters. I don't think my husband would be super thrilled about it, but I'm like, it would just make me happy, like just bring some lightness to election season. But that's what I've got going on with text messages right now. So first, if your offer is not selling, like this is just such a frustrating place to be. So we're going to talk first about like a couple things, 2 to 3 things. That's just like the bare minimum basic thing. Like our brains really love to overcomplicate things and make things harder than they need to be. And what I really want to do is kind of step back first and like, let's just go basic bitch and just see what is like ground floor. What can we do first before we go trying to like make things harder and more difficult on ourselves? So if you, let's see, I'm trying to think what is the best place to start. And something else I want to talk about too. It's probably not just one thing. If your offer isn't selling, it's probably not just like this one thing that if you fix it, like everything's going to work out. Like that's kind of like how I want to start this conversation first, is just taking the mindset that it might not be just one thing. At this point, I've been in business for 8 years. I've had 34 consecutive 5-figure months. I've worked with countless clients to get them to 6 figures and beyond. And what I can tell you is that it's just not usually one thing. And so that is just like ground zero. Let's level set first. There's a lot of shiny marketing out there that will tell you it's just you're one thing away. You're one, just starting a podcast, you're that thing away from selling your offer, or ads. That is the ticket. That's your one thing away from selling your offer, or getting, email training. That's your one thing. Like, there's all this shiny marketing that tells you like this is the one thing that you need that's going to fix everything else. And it's not usually that simple. Like, that marketing is making someone else money. It's not necessarily the thing that's going to serve you the best. So that's where I really just want to encourage you to be discerning and be very mindful when you are out there, because frustrated business owners make shitty decisions. Like, we are so easily trapped and just get like, oh, this one thing is going to save me and it's going to fix everything. And like, I would love for that to be the case, but it's not normally the case. And so when we are frustrated, we just don't make great decisions because we see something and we're like, this must be it. That shiny marketing, it like gets us every time. So that is the first thing. More often than not, it's not just one thing. This is why I believe in one-to-one so effing much, is because we're solving the right problem. We're literally figuring out what's the right gap to close. Like, I know my clients so well. I know their business so well. I know what their triggers are. I know what makes them tick. Like, having me in their corner, it makes everything else easier because they're not going down the rabbit hole. Like, I have a client who's done Facebook ads twice, and like, the first time around she kind of did it. The second time around we had a conversation of like, yeah, remember how that didn't really work how you wanted it to? Like, really don't know if this is the right answer. Like, let's have this conversation. She did it again, and now like after this round, we're like singing. We're like, we're never ever getting back together. We're like joking about it because it's like, okay, we're done. Like, that's your thing. If you bring it up again, I'm going to reflect to you that this is done twice. You spent this many thousands of dollars and it did not get you the answer that you wanted. So like, that is just like having someone with you to be like, here's your tendencies, your patterns, like, let's dive into that again, is just so helpful. So that's like the first piece of that, like why one-to-one is so important. So typically it's not just one thing that you need to fix or solve for. So the other thing, the second ground zero thing is kind of like, is your offer actually not selling? Because I work with clients who will book a client and then a week later they're like, it's not working, this offer isn't selling. And I'm like, you literally booked a client last week. And they're like, oh yeah. Or like they report new revenue to me because that's just part of the investment of working with me. And I'm like, you made an extra $2,000 of new revenue last month. And they're like, oh, I forgot about that. Like, our brains forget, like, we focus on, I think it's called like, what is it? Negativity bias. We focus on the negative so well, and like 10 times more than the positive. That's a made up stat, but it's something like crazy. Like, our brains just focus on the negative more, and that's been for survival of our species, and that's fine. But we need to realize that and see that, like, is my offer actually not selling, or I'm just like discounting it? Or maybe I'm thinking it's not selling, even though like I have a client who made sales, but she was saying it didn't count because it was like a referral from a family member. And I'm like, the IRS is counting it. Like, you need to count it. So it was just funny in her brain. It was like, it's not actually selling, even though it actually sold, but because it was a referral, it didn't count. So that's where I want you to be very mindful and see, like, is it actually not selling? Are you booking clients and then forgetting about it a week later? Or are you discounting the clients who have come in the door because you think they don't count? Like, is it actually not selling? The second piece of that is looking at, and I know this is going to be so basic and people will be like, Jordan, are you really talking about this? But I have been on my own journey with hormones, and this is something that has made a huge difference in my business and how I feel, is knowing where I am in my cycle. If you are familiar with Rachel Hollis and her podcast, she has done some great podcast episodes around it. And I've gotten like some books and stuff from the people she's talked to because it's so fascinating. Like my background is a nurse and I'm in my 40s and I'm finding out stuff about my body that I never knew. So I use an app called the Stardust app. It's free, but it is so wildly informative to just be like, oh, it's day 19 and 20. Like the world seems bleak and dark and everything feels like shit. Like 3 days, I know like my hormones are going to go back up and I'm going to be fine. Like the clouds will part. And just having that information is so helpful because when my offer feels like it's not selling or things feel like they're not working or I want to burn my business down, it's like, actually, I always feel that way this time of the month or this point in my cycle. So like, it's okay. There's not actually a problem. Like nothing is wrong here. And again, it's just having the data at our fingertips that's just so wildly liberating. There's also a great book called Do Less by Katie Northup, and that's really helping you lean into the different times of the month where it's, you know, you're better suited to do certain tasks. And so that's just really interesting and informative for you to have too if you're like, content felt really easy last week and this week like I just want to, you know, gouge out my eye before I do it. And it's like, well, that just might not be the time on your cycle that creating content or going out and speaking or going to networking events is going to behoove you. So that's just something to have in your back pocket as information. Like just bringing it through, like there might just literally be times of the month where everything feels dark and you feel like a failure, and then you're like, oh, my hormones have literally bottomed out. And when I don't know which hormone it is. It's not estrogen, not testosterone. It's one of the ones I recently learned about. But it's like really the feel good one. And it makes a huge difference for me. Like when that one is really low is when it's like destitute. Not to be dramatic, but that's how it is. So again, this is like something like when I was in high school, if a teacher was being mean, we'd be like, oh, she must be PMSing. But it literally makes a difference in my business. And I've talked to countless clients about this. Most of them are females. We have talked about phases of the moon and their cycle and seeing that there really is like time to be like not making excuses, but to just give ourselves grace and be like, okay, I know in 3 days, everything is just going to feel better. So right now I'm just going to let myself feel these feelings and not make it a big deal and not make it wrong and then move on with my life. So that is the one I want to say. Like, I'm not trying to blame hormones. I'm not trying to oversimplify. I am saying that that does play a part and it is something to consider. So we've gone through those things like, okay, it's not usually one thing. Is it actually not selling? And where are you in your cycle? And you're like, Jordan, my offer is actually not selling. Cut through the crap. Give me some stuff. Give me some strategies. We're going to talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Woo, I went crazy with these. So we're going to go through these like meat and potatoes pieces, but I wanted to make sure I covered the ground first with those other items because they are important and they do make a difference. So let's dive in. We're going to pretend like I'm your coach and we're going to brainstorm some ideas. The first thing is to say, how long have you been doing this? And the truth is it's probably going to take longer than you think. We always hear strategy takes 30, 60, 90 days to get off the ground, and that's at a minimum. That's if your messaging is really fucking clear. So if you don't have clear messaging, book an intensive. We can work on that next month. But this is something where it's like, it just takes time for something to play out. And that's something in the online space we don't talk about a lot. It gets so normalized that people make money fast and, you know, made $10,000 off of this post or in 2.5 seconds. And like, maybe that all is true, but it's probably missing some context. In the offline world, like, you know, brick and mortar business, I don't know if this is still the stat, but it was, you know, people would say like 5 years before you were a profitable business. And in the online space, it's like, we're supposed to be profitable and like blowing it up in 5 months. Like our reality is so skewed, not even skewed, but we just have these crazy high expectations of how fast something is supposed to work. And it feels like it takes forever. Like when you're in a strategy for 30, 60, 90 days, it fucking feels like forever. Like I get it. But in the grand scheme of things, like I've been in business 8 years, like for someone to work with me 6 months, it's like, that's a blip on the radar for an 8-year business. if you're planning on going even longer, like I'm planning to be around 10, 20 years, like 6 months or 3 to 6 months to get something going is just a blip. So let's just normalize, like, it's probably going to take longer than you want, and just level set here. And the thing is too, is like, I want to be in business for the long term. So I don't want to burn myself out to get like the fastest results and get the most cash, like right off the bat. It's like, I want to set myself up intentionally so that, and sustainably, because I want to be around. I don't want to just burn through clients and provide, shitty service and then leave and have to like constantly get new clients or, have that churn rate. Like, I love people staying with me. I've got clients who've been with me for 8 years. I love people staying with me for the long haul, and I'm intentionally slowing my growth so that I can provide amazing service. So that's also the piece here, is to like not thinking about the fast buck and getting results as fast as you can, but really setting yourself up for long-term sustainable growth. Like, that is where the win is. Like, people can go out and be like, I'm going to sell this shiny marketing thing and make a ton of money, but like, I don't have anything to back it up on the back end. So like, as soon as I blow through these clients, like, I'm done, because I'm not going to have testimonials. Like, that is not what I want for my clients. That's not the type of people I work with. That is not what I want for my business. Like, this is about like, okay, it's going to take what it takes, and having the mindset that like, I'm in it for that. If you're sitting there and you're like, well, I only want a business if it works and I'm making $10,000 in 6 months. Like, with all the love in the world, you might not need to be a business owner. If you're like, I'm not willing to stay in it until it works, then maybe this isn't the place for you. I am a business owner, and when I decided that like, I'm here and I'm going to keep going and I'm going to work it until it works, like, everything just gets easier and falls into place. So it's all kind of under this like time strategy of looking like, have you level set your expectations that, like a kitchen remodel, it's probably going to take longer and cost more than you thought it was. You want to set yourself up for intentional growth. Like, maybe you don't want to just like have 50 clients come through the door in 1 month. Like, we want to sustainably bring on people and give amazing service. What was the other one here? Level set, sustainable growth. And it just takes time. It just takes time for things to get off the ground. So, people, my container is 6 months. Most of the people who work with me for years, because even if we get past something within 6 months, there's always just more work to do. So that's just kind of like the long-term game that's business, and give yourself permission to see business as a long-term game. So even though you've been like doing this strategy for 6 weeks and it's not working, like, just be like, okay, am I willing, like, do I want a business 5 years from now? And am I willing to stay in it to get there? Like, that's the really kind of like almost like deep work that we need to do, and conversations we need to have with ourselves as a business owner, and just be like, I'm fucking in this until it works. Like, I'm in this, like, let's go. I don't care how long it takes, but like, I'm going to do it. That's the mindset I have. And when we go in with that, it changes the game. It's not like you're like, okay, it's been 3 months, I guess I need to give up. Like, that's just not the mindset to have. And that's not the mindset successful business owners have. And seeing that like, it might take years to create like exactly the business that you want to create, but like, it's so worth that time and effort, and really figuring out your messaging, figuring out your audience, figuring out what you like, what your zone of excellence is. Like, all these things like just takes like iterations and time. And so that's like the first piece. And I know I went in like multiple directions for that, but that's kind of the first brainstorming idea. If I were your coach, like, how long has it been? And let's kind of level set your expectations. And are you willing to stay in it and do what you need to do? So if I were your coach, the second thing that we would talk about is, how often are you selling? This is something I kind of touched on with the masterclass giveaway with the promos. I know it's so basic, but when I'm talking to people about their content, and we're talking about thought leadership or providing value content, I'm also asking them, okay, if you're doing these types of content 3 days a week, I guess you're doing sales content the other, 2 days. And they're all just like, I don't like, what? But if you're not selling, your offer isn't going to sell. And I know that sounds so basic, And there's so many people out there that are like, but I don't want to be salesy. And it's like, well, you gotta be salesy if you want your, offer to sell. And it's not like salesy gets a bad rep. I think you can definitely sell without being salesy. Because if you're worried about being salesy, it's kind of impossible for you to be salesy. Like if you're worried about being like the sleazy person online, like there's just kind of literally not a way that you're going to be that person. But people do need to get comfortable selling. You need to get comfortable putting your stuff out there online, telling people why you're the shit, why you solve the problem that they have, why they need to hire you, and then talking to them and making the pitch. Like that just needs to happen, and it needs to happen over and over and over. Like you need to be selling online or through personal conversations or in your email or somewhere, like I say every single day, and get comfortable with that, because this is when you're planting the seeds so that people are popping off the fence and sprouting, whatever analogy you want to use. Like people are popping off the fence at all different times. I'm just wrapping up an intensive I did in February today. So it's a week-long intensive, and we kick off the week and then we wrap up the week. And these people met me like over a year ago, and they finally hired me for an intensive. And like the thousands and thousands of dollars of lost revenue that they had, first of all, I'm just like, oh, like we could have done so much good and saved y'all a ton of money, but whatever. But just seeing that like that seed was planted like back in Q4 of 2022. So just see that like selling every day is just something that gets to be a habit, and you get to be just like, I'm a business owner, what? Like I gotta sell. Like, and if you're worried about what your in-laws will think, or the people from high school, or the people who went to college, or the other moms in your neighborhood, like you gotta give that shit up, because unless they are a business owner in your shoes, they have no room to judge. And that's something that I work with some of my clients on, because they are so wet their pants afraid of like asking for money or showing their expertise or speaking to the results that are possible. And like that just has to be worked through. So that is the second piece. Like, let's get really basic. You've got to sell daily. And this is something, I've got a client example, and I've got some at the bottom. I'm going to make sure I'm not like doubling on my client examples. But this one is with the client I'm working with now. He gets a ton of referrals. I'm not going to I can't give a ton of detail because I want to keep it private, but he gets a lot of referrals, but he also needs to start building more referral connections. So we came up with kind of like a text message for him to send, kind of like the exact verbatim, but then he's going to tailor it to each person. We came up with even like the logistics of like how he's going to work this into his schedule, because that was kind of a whole thing. He wasn't doing it. And now for the next time when we meet again, I'm like, okay, if you haven't sent these text messages, we're going to have like a deeper conversation. Like get ready to go deep, because we've come up with what you're going to say. We figured out how to work it into your schedule. So if you're still not doing those things, like get ready to lay your feelings or your childhood trauma or your triggers on the table, because we got to talk about that shit. Like you can like know what you're supposed to do all day long, but if you aren't doing it, you've got to go like unpack what's coming up. It's the Carl Jung quote. I might butcher it, but it's like, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you'll call it fate. Like that's what's going on with this guy. It's like, okay, he says he wants client referrals. He knows that he needs them. He knows he needs to build these relationships, because he's already seen hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue come in from referral partners, and he just wants more of them. So it's like, okay, we got the messaging, we've got the logistics, go fly, little bird, now go do it. And so if he's not selling, if you're not selling, if you're like, I know I need to post online, I know I need to sell in stories, I know I need to send sales emails, I know I need to reach out to so-and-so and let them know I have these spots open. Like if you aren't doing those spots, do some journaling. What's the fear going up? Reach out to someone like me, grab a free call so we can just talk through it, because there's something going on that's holding you back, other than just like, I know what I need to do, but I'm not doing it. Like that's the shit you've got to work through. Let's move on to the next one. I have a call at 1, so make sure I get to all these. I went crazy with my notes. So how often are you selling? Number 3, if you were my coach and your high ticket offer was not selling and you came to me, we would be talking about, is your content speaking to the transformation someone will get? So if you're just throwing a bunch of like what you get at them, like it's not going to connect the dots and see why they need to hire you. Because they may know they may need a bookkeeper, a web designer, a social media manager, a photographer. Like, they may know they need that, but they don't know why they need you. Excuse me. So we need to connect the dots for them. And I'm going to lovingly tell all my bookkeepers, stop fucking reminding people of deadlines. If you want to book clients, don't be reminding them about deadlines, because that's not what's going to book a client. If you're a web designer, stop talking about the platforms you support. If you are a VA or an OBM, stop talking about your Canvas skills. If you're a CPA, stop giving details on new tax law. Like, it's not like stop forever and ever, but it's like, if you're wanting to sell your offer, those aren't the conversations that are going to do it. You need to sell someone on them seeing you as the only option, not just an option. So you've got to sell them on the transformation. As a bookkeeper, you're selling them on the peace that they're going to have, the money that they're going to save, the time that they're going to save, how they're going to be able to go grow their business because they can hand over all the bookkeeping to someone else. If you're a web designer, you need to sell someone on the fact that, like, your web designs are going to be like so easy for someone to navigate that they naturally flow through it and want to work with you as the customer for them. If you're a VA or an OBM, you are talking about all the revenue generating opportunities people can have because they've handed over these tasks, because things are running like a well-oiled machine, and social media is going out to connect with their audience on a regular basis and how that brings in new clients. If you're a CPA, you want to talk about like the integrity that you bring to the business, that people know that they can sleep really well because they've got their taxes covered, that they know they're getting all the deductions and credits because you know the law inside and out, and you know how to ask the right questions. You're not just like filling in a form. Like, you are selling people on the transformation. Like, why you out of all the millions of people? So speak to that in your content. And that's when I would pull up with my clients, like, okay, let's like look at some of your posts. Literally, like, let's just see. Obviously they have to be available for that, but typically people are like, yeah, let's look at it, because it's like, you can think in your brain that you're doing that, but like most of the time we're selling ourselves short. Most of the time we're not speaking as loud, not even loudly, but we're not like owning our work and our worth like we should be. Like, so when you have someone like me in your corner who's like, you haven't mentioned, like, I had a client who's been in business 8 years like I had. I'm like, you haven't even mentioned that anywhere. You haven't mentioned the thousands of people you've supported. You haven't mentioned XYZ, like all this stuff that I know about her that she is just like not bringing to the table with her content. So having someone in your, corner that can like look at your content like that and like lovingly nudge you and pull it out of you is so fucking beneficial. So it's number 3. I might lose count as I get down these because I didn't actually number them in my notes. So the next piece, speaking of content, is how visible are you? Like, you need to sell in front of your audience. So that's the people who follow you, the people on your email list, the people in your Facebook group, and you need to get in front of other audiences. So that could look like going into other Facebook groups. That could look like going and doing a collab. That could look like doing a live stream with someone. That would look like doing a podcast. That would look like going to networking events. Like, there's all these things that's like, you need to get in front of your people and other people's audiences. So this Facebook group is a perfect example. You can promote here. Like, I pull up and I'm like, all these people, you can promote. Like, we have a Saturday promotion and we're going to kind of switch it up which days go in. Oh, good. There I am going live. But you can promote here. Like, you can do it any day. You don't need permission. I mean, you need to also provide value, but like, that's what this group is for. It is literally a group of business owners who can use your services, and they're like an audience right here and a nice little package for you to promote to. Like, get in front of this audience, get in front of other ones. Like, I just love like doing collabs because I love having people share their services. I love, getting in front of their audience. Like, it goes all over the place. Like, I'm promoting them everywhere. They're promoting me on their platforms. Like, it all just gets to work so well. Podcasts are great. Like, you get to show yourself as a thought leader and get in front of someone's audiences. And then you can use that as like content for your own stuff. Like, it's all just a win-win when you think about getting visible in front of your audience and in front of other audiences as well. Because if you have been around for a minute, I did a training last November, how I made $239K in 1 year with a small audience. I have a tiny audience. Like, my audience is so fucking small. People probably like think I'm a joke, but I don't care because I made $239K. So I've still got that freebie. If you want it, let me know. But this is like part of that, is like, I don't need millions of followers because I'm also getting in front of other people's audiences. I'm getting on podcasts. I'm doing all this other stuff so that it's not just about who's in my audience, but like the reach that I can have with other people, like with us working together. So that is the fourth piece. I'm going to stop counting at this point. The next one, is there a sense of urgency? Like, we humans suck at making decisions. Like, I mean, I like think about my kids as the first example. It's like, okay, do you want your M&Ms in your snack at lunch or after school? And it's just like, and I'm like, okay, you got to make a game time decision. What do you want? What are you going to wear? Let's make a game time decision. But like, we just kind of suck at like making decisions, and giving people a deadline just helps so much, because otherwise they'll just sit on the fence. Maybe not forever, but like definitely for longer than they need to. And if you offer someone something that's going to help them and improve their lives or improve their business, like, them not making a decision isn't doing anyone any good. So think about like not having fake deadlines, but like, how can you actually create like a sense of urgency with what you offer? So whether it's like, maybe you only have a certain number of spots. Like, I am maxed out at 8, maybe 10 people, just kind of depends on the client load, but that's like the max amount of one-to-one clients. I typically do 2 intensives a month. That's it. They're very in-depth. They last a week. And that's kind of all I'm available for. So those are like real, like logistical, like, I have 3 kids. I work from 9 to 2. Like, you know, I'll check in at night, but like, I'm not like working 40 hours a week. I like to volunteer with their schools. I like to pick them up. You know, I drop them off in the morning, doing family stuff in the evenings. Like, I just have legit small capacity. And so that is part of the conversation when I'm talking to people. It's like, there might be a spot, there might not, you know, like, I can't promise anything. And then maybe even having like a discount that will end. So if you're offering something like a discount that ends on a certain date, you know, just to give someone that like extra push that they need to like make a decision. Even if they don't decide to go with you, at least they made a freaking decision, and like, they can live with that now. But it's just that like, oh yeah, I need to look into this. Oh yeah, that's been on my radar. Like, you know, all these things, like when we're driving down the road, we're like, oh yeah, did I look into that? Like, this is like, okay, this is going to be what gets their focus, because they're going to miss out on the $200 or whatever dollar discount. So help them make that decision. And it's very heart-centered when it is a legit like deadline. If you're like, doors, you know, cart closes on this day, and then, you know, a few days later you're like, oh, the cart's still open. Like, that's just going to erode trust with your people, and you do not want to do that. So you want this to be a legit, like, the discount goes away, the, you know, cart closes and you can't, you know, sign up again for 3 months type of thing. Like, gives them a reason to get off the fence. So the next thing, is your messaging clear and concise and consistent? So a confused mind doesn't buy. And so this is something with the intensives that I have opening in March. If you're really like, I don't know what I'm selling, I don't know what I need to be promoting, I don't know how my offers fit together, like, this is such a good use of the intensives time to talk about this. Like, I see so many people selling so many different things at once. Like, there are people that I follow that I just know them personally locally, and I just like them as humans, but I'm like, I am so confused what you're trying to get me to do right now. Like, are you trying to get me to get this document from this Facebook group, or you're over here on Instagram kind of like leading me down this rabbit hole, or like, what is the fucking deal here? Because I'm very confused, and if I'm confused, like, somebody else is probably confused too, and then they're not buying because they're like, I don't know which direction, which is the best one. Like, you might have someone get on the phone with you that's like, tell me what I need to buy. But a lot of times, like, you just need to go all in on one. And so that's where in the intensive we can really work together to create like, okay, what's your end offer? How are we backing into it? What are we promoting at one time so that we can just like pull all the interest into one thing? So this is what I do in my business. I typically always focus on the free call or the intensive or the masterclass or the intensive. So I am like very strategic with my content, and we're like, okay, we're promoting this thing hard for 2 weeks, then we'll promote this thing hard for 2 weeks. Like that's kind of what I'm typically doing with mine. But you only want to flip between a couple things, and you want to make sure it's not just like, oh, I don't know, we did that one, promoted it for a week and nobody bought, so I guess now we'll do something else. Like you don't want it to be like that. Like you literally are like, okay, we're going hard with this promotion for 2 weeks, for 1 month, like whatever that is, giving it time to build momentum, give it time for people to see it, give it time for people to be like, okay, I kind of want that, but like my objection is this, so that you can take that data and you can go speak to whatever objections they're having. So you need that like time to like really hone your messaging, really like let the offer build momentum and people see it enough times. I don't know what the statistic is now, but it's like people need 50 to 70 touch points before they buy from you, or they need to, there's all these things, like they just need to see it a certain number of times before it's going to like click in that it's like, oh, I need to go do something about that. So make sure your messaging and whatever you're selling on all your platforms is very clear and consistent. Go all in on selling. And when I say selling, it can be paid or it can be unpaid. So even if you have a free download or a free, free phone call or free training, like it's still something that someone's going to have to take an action to sign up for. And so that is like you're selling that just as much as if it were your paid offer. And then since we're talking about messaging, is your content positioned to connect with them? So you are going to go through phases with your content, like where it's like, okay, I've read all this stuff, I've learned all this stuff, now I'm just kind of like regurgitating. And then you're going to have content that is like, I fucking own this. This is my thought leadership. Like this is what I've seen with clients. This is what I've like learned myself. Like make sure like we're kind of always going through different iterations of our content between like just spewing out what we see somebody else say and what we've really integrated in our own work and our own practice. And guess which one books clients? Kind of mess that up. Guess which one books clients? It is the one where you own your thought leadership, where you own what you bring to the table, not where you're just like, well, I saw this person talking about time blocking, so I'm going to talk about it too. It's like literally bring what you have to the table, like lay it all out there, client results, your, experiences, like put it all out there in your content. Because this is when we go, like, this is when people buy. This is when they're like, out of all the coaches in the world, Jordan is the one for me because of X, Y, Z, because she has a nursing background and she's made the switch, or she has a bookkeeping background and she's made the switch. Like there are so many ways that people just like connect with me and they're like, yes, you're my coach, which I love, but it's like, because I bring this energy and like not just talking about what all the other coaches are talking about. I'm talking about stuff that is relevant to my audience, that I've literally had conversations with clients and free calls about. I'm not just like regurgitating something that I heard on a podcast. So that is the kind of, when we're talking about content and your messaging being clear and consistent, it's like, is it clear in terms of who you are, what you bring to the table, and then consistent in terms of what you're selling? Go all in. Do not confuse people. Okay, moving on. Is your offer aligned to who you're selling to? Or did you just kind of like whip something up to jump on the latest bandwagon? So I'll use me as an example. One-to-one support goes in and out of style. Like I don't really even keep up with style. I mean, I've had this black sweater for like, 10 years. I'm just kind of like, if it works for me, it works. And one-to-one for me works. Like I've heard conversations of other people talking about these programs that you buy where you just buy it for $500, then you recreate a program and then you sell it for thousands and make millions and, just shit like that it's like, I mean, maybe somebody actually did get rich, but the fact that like everybody else doing it now is going to get rich is just like a fallacy. And it's just, your business is going to be more successful if you're selling something that is aligned to you and the work that you do and like what, like the support that you want to give clients and the way that you want to support clients. So I help a lot of people go from like an hourly kind of done for you rate to a higher touch premium price tag. And I offer one-to-one coaching, but I'm not sitting there telling everyone they need to be a one-to-one coach. It could be a group program. It could be a course. It could be a mastermind. It could be consulting. It could be like all these different options. It doesn't have to just be what I offer. So that is like what I'm selling. I'm not selling you on coaching. I'm selling you on doing it your way, in a way that's aligned to you. So just make sure that like whatever you're selling, if you're like, this isn't selling, like just do a check-in and be like, did I come up with this offer because I really am on board with it, because I really believe in it, because I really believe it'll change people's lives, and this is the way I like to work? Or am I doing it because Sally Sue said online that this is the way to make $10,000 a month, or this is kind of what everybody's doing? Like, check in and see that your offer is aligned, because it's going to be so much easier to sell it when you're like 1,000% behind it. Like, I know one-to-one coaching is the thing that works. Like, I've done masterminds, I've done group programs, and I've done one-to-one coaching. I've gotten support for almost 2 years now, and it's the thing that changes the game. I wish I'd have done it sooner, but coulda, woulda, shoulda. But, really thinking about like, what are you passionate about? What do you see being the change, the actual thing that's going to support the person in front of you? So if I was like, okay, I think one-to-one is like the way to hands down make more money in your business, but I see everyone else doing group programs, and so I jump to that because I think that that's going to make me more money faster. Like, I'm probably going to have a really hard time selling it, because I'm like, well, I'm offering a group program, but I actually really believe in one-to-one. Like, there's just that disconnect there. And even if you're not saying it, people pick up on it. And not only do they pick up on it, but you're not even like selling it as well, because you're even like in the back of your mind, like, well, I really think that this other thing is the thing, but this is the thing that's going to make me money. So this is what I'm selling. So really check in and see that what you're offering is really aligned to you, who you want to support, how you want to support people, the transformation that you want to see, that you want to help people get. Like, that is like a big strategy piece of if your offer is not selling. So, we're getting to the final thing. My voice is, got to remember to breathe from my diaphragm. I always do too much from my throat. But the last, we'll do some examples after this, but the last piece, if I were your coach and you said, my offer isn't selling, I would be wondering, are you sold on yourself? So this is something I feel like we always start with, but I didn't want to start with this one because people always roll their eyes. Got the Taylor Swift song in my head. They just roll their eyes. But you've got to be the most sold on yourself. And I know it's so basic and people are like, oh, I am sold on myself. But when people have objections, or people are like, I'm sure you're worth the money, but I just can't afford it. Like, we need to be so sold on ourselves that in our head, we're kind of like, oh, you're so cute. Like, because we are so like, this is the thing that's going to support you. Like, I know you don't think you have the money, but like, I know that this is a thing that's going to actually help blow up your business in a good way. Like, let's have that conversation, because I'm willing to go there with you, because I know I am so sold on myself. Like, there's literally no better way you can spend your money. Like, hands down, a course isn't going to do it. Signing up for a program is not going to do it. Like, I know that no one else is going to support you like I can. So it's like, when you're that sold, you're willing to like sit in the muck with people who are getting in their own way. Because if they're not buying your services, they're buying their own BS. So their brain is telling them they can't afford it or they don't have time. And if you're just sitting there like, okay, my door is always open, then like, you're just leaving money on the table and you're co-signing their BS. So if your offer isn't selling, you being so sold on it is just like the hands down thing that is going to support someone when they can't give themselves permission. So we got some people jumping on live and we're almost to the end. So be sure to go back and catch the whole thing, because I'm just wrapping up the meat and potatoes piece of it. But please say hi, ask your questions. So we'll recap those strategy pieces. So the strategy pieces, we've got how long have you been doing this? Like, level set your expectation of how long it's going to take and just be willing to go all in for however long it takes. Then how often are you selling? Like, you need to be selling every damn day, so just get used to it. Are you speaking to the transformation someone will get, not just the stuff or the pieces or the platforms you're good at, but are you speaking to like the results that they'll get? How visible are you? Not only do you need to be in front of your audience, you need to be in front of other audiences. Is there a sense of urgency? Are you just waiting for someone to like eventually decide that they need to work with you? Or do you have a certain cap or a discount that is going to go away and they need to get off the fence? And is your is your offer aligned to what you're selling? Like, are you aligned and in alignment with your services and what you offer, what you bring to the table? Or are you just doing it because you think it's a way to make a quick buck? And last but not least, most important, are you sold on yourself? Do you believe that what you do is truly life-changing, business-changing, game-changing, and that's what's really going to support your people to get what they want? So I've got to wrap up. I have a call at 1. I need to finish my lunch, but we've got 4 client examples. So one of my clients has their busy season. I didn't pull up the numbers. I don't know if I can do it real quick. They have a busy season that is a very specific time of the year, and they have a certain number of spots that they can do. So to keep everything very private, I'll keep it kind of general, but just know during this busy season, they want to max out every single spot. Like everything needs to be sold and filled. And so what we did was really making sure that we did kind of like FOMO, and making sure that we posted what was available. So say they had 10 spots a week, we were going in stories and we were using a UTM strategy. So we used a specific link that went back to the website. I do a UTM strategy with all my clients, and I build traffic dashboards for everyone because it's just a huge deal. People charge thousands of dollars for that, but it's just part of the work that I do with my clients. But for their, and I'm just pulling up numbers real quick, for their busiest season, we wanted to really maximize every single spot. So, say they had 10 spots a week, we would be promoting the week before, this many spots left, here's the link to go grab the last 4. And we would we were constantly putting it in people's faces of what was going away, how many is left. And because of that, they made almost $100,000 in their 3-month busy season. So that is huge. So that's one of those pieces where we were selling all the time. We were giving a sense of urgency. We were giving clear deadlines. We were giving oh, another one went away, better get yours today. We were putting that very clear. And because they have a very short 3-month busy season, we just hit it hard. It wasn't we do this the whole year long. It was very targeted for that part of the year. And so they made $100,000 just in those 3 months, which is huge, because in prior years they had not gone that hard. I don't feel it's totally apples to apples just because of some of the COVID stuff that was going on. So yeah, but that was them filling those spots and using the FOMO and the urgency deadlines was huge, and having that take off to $100,000 that last year. So another client has a launch strategy. So we realized her email sequence wasn't getting any traction, and in the past it had. So we did some emails that were really all about speaking to objections. Her speaking to objections email blew up. And it's I don't have her email platform, and it's in my notes somewhere, but I'd have to find it. But she booked so many spots because of that speaking to objections. So that's the piece where she was with her content and the transformation someone will get. It wasn't just the transformation of what you'll get. It was speaking to what's also probably holding them back. And she knows her people because she's literally been there. She's been in the same position they are. So we really talked through everything that could possibly be holding them back and worked that into her content, because it made a huge difference. And again, I should have pulled the numbers before and gone back through, but I didn't. But that's just somewhere making your messaging really clear and aligned to what you're selling. She was able to step into their shoes and speak to them directly because she had been there, and it was just so powerful. Oh, okay. I had another client. So I talked earlier about a client that was doing personal outreach and some referral networking stuff, or referral partners. I had another one who did personal outreach. She was so freaking scared to post online, so scared, and it's one of those things where sometimes I'm going to lovingly challenge my clients to do something they don't want. And this was one of those situations where it just didn't feel appropriate. And it was okay, totally hear you. don't want to post online. How about personal outreach? So we started with personal outreach. She was adding $5,000 of recurring revenue a month to her sales because of the personal outreach. Like, it was crazy. And so that, like, if you're thinking about something not selling, making that like clear, like personalization, which isn't something we talked about. I should have added that in. Like having that personal piece of it really goes far, but it also comes to that, like, how often are you selling piece? Because if we would have waited for her to do promo posts online, she would have like never done it. But because she started selling basically every day with some kind of personal outreach, she was able to build up $5,000 MRR in her business just from that. I've got to get off in a second. But another client also has a launch strategy. We were able to make an additional $8,000 because she really focused on the offer, tailoring it to them and what they want. So it's kind of the same conversation we've been having, but like, instead of her coming to the sales conversations and being like, because they have to have a conversation with her before they're allowed into this program, just to see if they're the right fit, because it's just so very specific. But at first she was just like in her head, like, I want to make this number of sales, I want to make this number of clients. And I was like, what if we made it about them? Like, stop making it about you and what you want and the revenue you want. Make it about them and the person in front of you. Like, hear them, see them, personalize it. And this is where like being sold on herself really worked, because she wasn't worried about being the dancing monkey, proving stuff, like, let me show you how great my program is. It was more of like, who is the person in front of her, and like supporting them to get what they want. So this goes into like how, aligned she is with her package, messaging being clear and consistent, speaking to the transformation. Like, that was something she brought to all of these like conversations where she made it about them instead of about her. And we were able to like bump up the end revenue by $8,000 when she started doing that. So if you're sitting there and you're like, this was all great, I can see how this would all be helpful, but I'm still not exactly sure where to go from here. I'm not exactly sure how to, be more consistent with what I'm selling, or I'm not sure exactly if my messaging is that concise, or I'm not sure if I'm really sold on myself, or I'm not sure like exactly what the transformation is that people get. I mean, I think I know, I've seen it kind of work, but I'm not exactly sure. Like, this is when the intensives in March are just so beneficial for you, and I want you to have one of these. So we can use the time, we can kind of tailor these to whatever you really want to work on. This is one-to-one support. This is personalized to you. Again, like, people have gone to just make thousands of dollars after these because we got really clear on their offer. We got really clear on their messaging. We got really clear on where and when they were selling. Like, it's just amazing what we can do in a week. So, again, I've got 2 opening in March. I'm going to put the link below. DM me with any questions. We can have a call and see if you're a good fit for this. If you're like, I don't know, am I the right kind of person that would benefit from this? Like, I am always available for that, and can definitely have that conversation. But I hope this was supportive to y'all. Thank y'all for joining. Thank you for catching the replay. I so appreciate y'all being here. I gotta run, but I'll see y'all next week. Have a good day.